We have entered the period of the culmination of the collective crack-up. And this is happening at every level of manifestation. On the macro-planetary level, we can see the conflicts building up to the total explosion in which they will terminate with mutual self-destruction. But we see that also at every lesser level of social organization and of internal psychological disorganization and dysregulation, which are increasing. And as the consciousness of the ego fragments and cannot stop from acting out its shadow and projecting its conflicting antagonisms and finding themselves enmeshed in externally exhausting and destructive conflicts of an interpersonal kind that are intrapersonally based, it becomes ever more urgent to completely eliminate every last sanskara of the ego while there is still time. And the Supreme Lord has ordained that the 4 a.m. meditation, this period known as the Brahma Muhurat, is the time in which the energy of consciousness will be accelerated in its reception of the power to transmute and dissolve the collapsed quantum wave functions that are creating in the consciousness glitches that cannot otherwise be removed. And that is why it is part of the seva of yogis to gather together in this time and support the energy field so that all the beings will be able to receive the fullness of that energy that is being attuned to by each node of consciousness acting as a transceiver and emanating it into the field, so that the entire morphogenic superorganism becomes raised in its level of consciousness. It is essential that we understand that every ego is an NPC. It's a non-player character. So long as there is identification with the ego, your awareness will be a helpless bystander. You may want to change habit patterns that you know are self-destructive and that are leading to a kind of fate that you do not really want, but you do not have the power to change it. And you find the same pattern continuing even though you wish that it would end. Because there is no power within the consciousness to transmute its own sanskaras from within the ego system that is the product of those sanskaras. And therefore, the awareness must completely separate. There must be a total fission from the ego and the body identification in order for the consciousness that then returns to its nature as pure space, as the Brahman field of absolute presence, to then be filled with the total energy field itself that is activated from the 0 point of the absolute, and is able in that state where there is no I thought to dissolve all of the fixations and the habitual functioning and misfunctioning of the ego, so that that entire structure is eliminated and the pure intelligence of the Tao functions as the operating system of the body-mind. It is only when every final sanskara has been dissolved that the freedom of consciousness to return to its absolute nature will be fully attained. But there must be an immediate disidentification and disinterest, not only in the body but in the ego narratives, so that the power to turn away from them and receive the energy, the Shakti, to silence the mind, so that the presence of God and the information from God consciousness is able to be received and metabolized and transformed into behavioral patterns that are in sync with the will of the Supreme Power that is ruling and directing the entire morphic field of the cosmos. And the urgency of achieving this liberation now is extremely intense. The margin of time that is left is very small. And those who do not live in the ashram will find that the energy out there is so much worse, so much more tamasic, so much more violent and criminal, and so much more threatening in so many ways, that the luxury of meditating and of being in peace and not having to deal with survival issues will distract you from the highest priority of liberation. But at this point, nothing else matters. And so, if we do not give our entire attention to this project of God realization, then the willpower will not be sufficient to bring the consciousness out of real one, which is trauma, into the real two of love, to be able to receive the Shakti and ascend to real three, to the throne of the Absolute Self. And all of this must be achieved in real time, before time and space have been shown to be unreal. And after that complete fission of your awareness from everything in the manifestation, so that you enter into the total inconceivable emptiness in which there is literally no world, no duality, no manifestation, because it is all a dream. And once you have entered fully into the mind of the dreamer, that dream disappears from the conscious presence, even though the character within the dream field continues to function and to function flawlessly. but the awareness itself is saturated with light. And that light washes out all, not only interest in, but focus upon whatever activities are happening upon the holographic screen. And the mind that is in the light of the projector is now able to modulate the film that determines what is actually appearing on the screen. And in the final moment, the total fission returns into total fusion. And in that absolute fusion, there is no longer any difference between flesh and spirit, between cosmos and consciousness. And it is that absolute unity that then brings the power of the light to dissolve all of the cosmic quantum wave functions that have collapsed into their intergalactic forms, and return the entirety of the luminous energy of the cosmos back into the 0 point of the singularity. And it is this that is to be accomplished by the one player who is directing every character in the holographic simulation. And it is only when you realize that you are that player that liberation is finally completely attained. May you have the clarity of mind and the power to retain this knowledge in its essential nature as the pure discernment of the real and the power to let go of the unreal in the immediacy of the now. This is the key to Jivan Mukti. Namaste.
Namaste.